It's Ron Reader digs the universe. I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe, and tonight, Whitewashing the Smithsonian. Some years back, at a family Thanksgiving dinner, I almost got into an argument with my younger brother about Confederate statues. My sibling offered that he thinks it's a bad idea to hide history like that. I responded that these Confederate statues aren't there for the sake of history, but rather to glorify the Confederacy. Then his wife shut the whole thing down, which is just as well, because I didn't really think the conversation was going to get very far past that opening point. Because that's the thing these pro-Confederate statue people refuse to acknowledge. Statues just generally in town squares, on courthouse steps, in parks, and elsewhere in the public realm are always there to glorify an individual and the ideas with which we associate him. They solely exist to perform a socially unifying function, and in the case of Confederate statues, that unifying function is under the banner of white supremacy. So, if you want to see statues as history, you go to a museum of history where exhibits are curated and contextualized by professional historians whose job it is to get it right and to help you understand. Historians get it right by adhering to a strict methodology with their work, which consists, as once observed by radical historian Howard Zinn, of examining primary sources, examining secondary sources, and developing full familiarity with arguments other historians are having about what those primary and secondary sources mean. Peer review and all of that good stuff. Unfortunately for conservatives, a lot of their cherished ideas about American history, like the Founding Fathers, all being deeply dedicated 20th century style evangelical Christians, or that slavery was a benign institution. These ideas just don't cut it with the methodology of professional historians. Neither primary nor secondary sources tell us that the founders were particularly religious or that slavery was good. In fact, the primary and secondary sources tell us the exact opposite. So history, actual history, stands as an obstacle to MAGA's attempts to impose Christian nationalist fascism on the land. We're just not that kind of nation, and the record shows that we never have been. But, you know, as Orwell wrote in 1984, those who control the present control the past, and those who control the past control the future. I think fascists understand this principle instinctively and always try to rewrite history in order to make their tyranny seem just and inevitable. So instead of accepting that we are a secular nation, slowly in fits and starts, moving across the moral arc of the universe toward justice, President Trump has ordered a review not only of the Smithsonian, but now of all major history museums. You know, the same way he's been doing with major universities. He's monitoring for so-called wokeness, especially exhibits that make slavery look bad. You rewrite history like this, you're trying to give yourself cover for, say, putting immigrants in camps, among other things. You know, as in, well, we have never been a racially oppressive America. That is just not who we are, and that's not what this is. But come on, the massive ICE crackdown is obviously racist. I'm not supposed to believe my lying eyes. That's the thing. You can rewrite history all you want, but it just doesn't change the present one goddamn bit. These anti-history moves MAGA has been making are very disturbing over the long term. But right now, we remember. We know. And that is why it is all the more important to take these fascists out like right now. I'm Ron Reeder, and this has been Ron Reeder Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reeder, again next week for another episode of Ron Reeder Digs the Universe.